All right. As promised, I want to share with you what's really going on. If you've been following Lynn Haven last week, holy shnikes, right? Does it feel like this is about more than the firing of a city manager? Does it feel like there's something going on and we're not in on it? If it feels like that, it's because you're right. This is about a lot. And I'm going to do my best to break it all down for you. And I think that by the end of the show, you'll have some new perspectives. Some of it will be factual, and then some of it will be what I think all these data points indicate and where this is going. First, let me thank a couple of sponsors, and we're going to get right to it.
Hand caught in the cookie jar? Sometimes bad habits continue even into adulthood. I'm El Saline, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. All right, so tonight there was a mass meeting, called by Pastor Jesse Nelson at his church. And the News Herald showed up. It was at 5 o'clock. WMBB showed up, and they weren't allowed in. Let me show you what the invitation was like. I helped spread the word. Here we go. So this is really remarkable. I've never really seen anything like it. There we go. So this is the flyer. Community meeting. A call to action for Mrs. Vicky Gaynor's unjust termination. Agenda highlights. Pastor Nelson is hosting a mass meeting. Come and join the fight for equality and justice. Today on 717 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and the hashtags are We the People, Justice for Vicky, Justice for All, Fight the Power, and Black and Proud. So I sort of, you could barely see the hashtag, so I was able to get those on there better. Now, in this, in my commentary here, I really, this is probably going to be the most complete breakdown. So if you only see one thing, this is probably the 2 minutes to watch. But I am going to show you unbelievable video from Friday's meeting and Mayor Jesse Nelson, and show you that the city no longer cares about the lawsuit. If they lose or not, it's not about that anymore. It's crazy. All right, so let's take a look at this. I want to make it big enough to where you can hopefully read it. All right. Mayor Jesse Nelson is hosting a mass meeting, and it just took place tonight, as a pastor to fight for equality and justice. People were encouraged to share the flyer and the hashtag, so here you go. Mayor Nelson and former city manager Vicky Gaynor, who was terminated by the commission in a 4-1 vote on Friday, they say that their engineer, Chris Forehand, lied in his deposition. Remember, this all stems from the deposition of Chris Forehand, the city contracted engineer who has been working closely with city manager Vicky Gaynor. And he said that she coerced him to come up with requirements that excluded his company, James Finch's company, Phoenix Construction, from ever getting a contract with the city. Under oath, in a lawsuit filed by Finch against the city, against Vicky Gaynor individually, and against Chris Forehand individually. After the deposition, Chris Forehand answered all the questions to Finch's satisfaction. He answered them fully under oath. and was dismissed as a defendant. So now it's Finch versus the city of Lynn Haven and Vicky Gaynor individually. So the city, the other two defendants, Mayor Nelson and the city manager, they are saying that their city engineer, who they've been through thick and thin with, is lying now under oath. Remember, they've been working together since Hurricane Michael. If you looked at the FBI 302 investigation memos and Sheriff Ford's investigation memos, and you look at what the court did and what the prosecution did, the federal prosecution, they gave Chris Forehand immunity for federal crimes against the city, or at least with the world claim, which was the insurance adjuster aspect of it. But there was a lot to it, and he didn't even have to do anything. He didn't have to testify. So they've been, thick as thieves, as they say, for a long time. But now, and just last month, remember, I went up there and said, are you guys paying Chris Forehand to determine, to rank the bids and determine the, all that stuff? And they went on and on about how great Chris Forehand is. But now he's a rotten scoundrel and a liar. Isn't that interesting? After all this time. It's funny what going under oath and depositions can do. All right, so they say he's lying. Strangely, though, no, this is important. Nobody seems to be mad at Police Chief Ricky Ramey for reporting City Manager Vicky Gaynor, his boss, to FDLE in what's known as a criminal review, not a referral. He did not refer a crime to FDLE, and he made that point to the city attorney, Amy Whiteout Myers. He said, very important, city attorney, this is the important words here is referral. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm saying. The important words here, let me get this right, is review. Review. Right. And then he went outside and she followed him outside while James Finch was giving public comments. And I tried to go over there and see what they were talking about, but they stepped outside the door and closed it. And so I didn't want to get, arrested. So I just showed you what they were doing. But isn't it interesting? Because Friday at the city commission meeting, there were 150, 200 Vicky Gaynor supporters, and they were loud and they were passionate, just the way I like it at a city commission meeting. Yeah, I'm serious too. And there were insults thrown from citizen to citizen. Not good, but it is what it is, and it happens when people disagree this mightily about issues involving their government. No violence. And so, welcome to America, rock and roll. Although, I'm going to get to it in the show, there's a move going on, I believe, accusations of violence and crimes. And I'll explain all that to you and what's being done about it. And it's important that you know. But let's get back to this. Why would none of Vicky Gaynor's supporters be angry? Wouldn't you be angry if the police chief told FDLE that city manager Vicky Gaynor might have committed the crime of bid rigging? Hell yes, you'd be mad. Social justice warriors, and that's what the shirts say, and that's what they profess to be, and I believe them. I take them at their word. They usually are, not close to the police, especially when the police have a history of racist tweets and stuff. But in this case, one of the most prominent citizens leading the charge, named Tony Bostic, he's gone up there in the past and defended Chief Ricky Ramey's text. He said he's a good man, a police officer beyond reproach. I trust him. Yeah, the text messages were ugly, but get a life, So Tony Bostic, one of the most prominent leaders of the supporters for city manager Vicky Gaynor, justice for Vicky hashtag. He's cool with the vulgar and vindictive police chief Ricky Ramey. So, but it is weird, right? It is unusual that nobody's mad at the police, and that's because I think they're working with the popo. They all know the deal, and I'll tell you why. The only things that make sense about that, let me get through the rest of this. That's because it appears staged. Sheriff Tommy Ford is the chairman. Out of all 67 sheriffs, Sheriff Tommy Ford is the chairman of the FDLE Criminal Justice and Standards Training Commission. Here's what I think's happening. The move is to pretend it's a criminal referral, even though Ricky Ramey did say a key word here, attorney, nobody would get it, is review, not referral. When actually, I think they're conspiring with FDLE and Sheriff Tommy Ford with his help. That's what I think, to get a not sustained decision from FDLE with Ford's help. After all, it's the sheriff's jurisdiction, Bay County. If crimes are committed, it's for him. He's the chairman of the whole thing. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need FDLE to tell him. If it were a real criminal referral, then Ramey would have called the sheriff rather than FDLE. Most likely, Ford recommended FDLE for plausible deniability. Remember, Sheriff Ford and the FBI had lots of criminal activity in their investigation notes that were revealed during the persecution of Mayor Margo Anderson and James Finch. They already know everything. They just never prosecuted any of it. That's why this political theater is being unleashed now. Chief Ramey didn't just discover the crimes, he's part of them. And if you want to know more about that, this has most of those investigation notes I've been telling you about. And it's Margo Anderson's book. You can get it on Amazon. It's a bestseller. Hurricane Michael, Storm of Corruption by Mayor Margo Anderson. I wrote the prologue in this. It's the opening chapter. It's about 20 pages. And in the prologue, you see that? Let's try this. In the prologue, it's kind of awkward. Let's see. How come I get it? There we go. I write about, I thought she did it. See that? I thought she did it. And I tell you how I went from thinking she was guilty to being certain that she wasn't, and neither was James Finch. I was there, went through it all. Also, I had a bird's eye view because through it all, the undersheriff, number 2, and number 3, Major Jimmy Stanford, they were talking to me, taking us to lunch. We were working, I thought, as a team to clean up public corruption in the town. I had an inside view. I knew a lot, not everything, but a lot of what they knew. And but then I found out a lot of what they told me was not true. And 4 months later, they surrounded my home. But I'm not going to get into that right now. And so in May of 2022, there was a big falling out during the height of the prosecution against Mayor Margo Anderson and James Finch. I was in the courtroom for the hearings and both trials of James Finch. The evidence was overwhelming that it was a frame job. I mean, it was in May of 2022 that the undersheriff, Chief Deputy Joel Heap, and number 3, the top prosecutor working with the top investigator for the sheriff's office working with the FBI. It was in May 2022 that they came to my office and argued with me for 2 hours about my reporting. And I could see in their eyes I was being lied to. 4 months later, they surrounded my home. At least 14 Bay County Sheriff's units. I will tell you this, You ought to have, if you're worried about these types of things, have security cameras all over the place because you might need them. I think it's the only thing that saved us. But I tell you that to tell you that they know it already. They know this stuff. Let me get back to this. I know they do. I'll save some of this for later. So yeah, remember, they know it all already. They already know about Chris Forehand. They were working, it was a joint FBI sheriff's office investigation. They were working with the prosecutors, the federal prosecutors. I've seen the documents. They know already. So this is all theater. Chief Ramey didn't just discover that. So here's the tell that about what I'm saying. See, a lot of you say there's no evidence of any kind of fraud. You know, there's nothing like looking if you want to find something. And quite frankly, if you haven't, spent the time and read through this and read the actual prosecution notes and investigation notes and transcripts of the hearings, then you just don't know. But I understand how you feel. But the tell is that nobody's upset with Chief Ramey. That's how to recognize what's happening. Because if this was real, they'd be pissed off at Chief Ramey, and understandably so. It is witness tampering in the James Finch lawsuit is what is happening on a massive scale. Under the color of law, while inflaming racial tensions, Mayor Nelson hasn't just been given the green light, he's been given marching orders from above. Another tell is that the city attorneys are no longer advising against litigating Finch's lawsuit during commission meetings. Remember, they'd always say, don't talk about it in a commission meeting because what you're saying is on the record, could be used against the city. It could cost the city millions. Remember that? They never meant that, at least Mayor Nelson and City Manager Vicki Gaynor and Chief Ramey and Sheriff Ford, they never meant it. That was all just to shut you up, commissioners, and get on board, be a united front, all that stuff. The city attorney, I mean, when you see, and I'm going to show you in a moment, what Mayor Jesse Nelson said at the last commission meeting, he talked all about the case. He made all kinds of wild accusations about the lawsuit. He earned himself a deposition himself. He's now in queue. The thrashing about and the screams that you hear is desperation, and it is fury, because there's a lot at stake. This is not just about Vicki Gaynor's firing. It's about a lot more than that. So, this is a big tell now that the city attorneys are no longer advising against litigating Finch's lawsuit during commission meetings. It's okay now. Or at the FDLE, Cool in the Gang, I'll tell you why in a minute. Or at Mayor Nelson's protest rallies or mass meetings at his church behind closed doors where the press was not allowed in tonight. The News Herald and WMBB were not allowed in. It is either super secret or super religious. And it was Pastor Nelson, not Mayor Nelson, Pastor Nelson. But the topic was fight the power and justice for Vicki. So it's Pastor Nelson talking about city stuff, strategizing. I guess, I don't know. I'm not in there. And neither is the press. Maybe. And I've been told that maybe Pastor Nelson has called this mass meeting because there were a lot of folks very upset at the city commission meeting, and maybe he's called them in there as a man of the cloth and is advising everybody to be to remember justice and love and community and all the stuff. That's what I've been told, to sort of make sure that passions are tempered, and that leadership is first priority with him. I don't believe that, but that's what I've been told. So I'm passing it along. So if the city attorneys are no longer advising against litigating the big James Finch lawsuit during commission meetings, well, why else? Why else would defendant City of Lynn Haven, remember he's suing the City of Lynn Haven and Vicki Gaynor, why would the defendant City of Lynn Haven refer co-defendant Vicki Gaynor to the FDLE? Does that sound normal? Now, the most important thing here for the racketeers, and by racketeers, I mean those above the mayor and the city manager, okay? The most important thing for the racketeers is that Gaynor not implicate Sheriff Ford, Chief Ramey, or any other element of the protection racket that has been successful so far. Now, their next move, and this is important, will be hit pieces and boycotts and any other intimidation against city commissioners or bloggers or journalists or anybody not on board, anybody mouthing off, anybody stepping out of line. That's next. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. But under no circumstances can the racketeers afford to have Vicki Gaynor deposed. And again, this was the community meeting I'm talking about. Okay. So now let me say, and these are important things. All right. These are things you might want to jot down, because how would, remember, the lawsuit James Finch is against the city, and the co-defendant is Vicki Gaynor individually. Why would the city report its co-defendant to FDLE and say, there might be a crime here? It was a criminal review, not a criminal referral. Well, Vicki Gaynor has been postponing being deposed by James Finch. Their lawyers have not answered. So now Finch is going to have to subpoena Vicki Gaynor and the other two employees and probably Mayor Nelson at this point, based on what you're about to see. So why would they do that? I mean, you would think that if you were the plaintiff, if you were the one bringing the lawsuit, wouldn't you love if the co-defendants were telling law enforcement, I think she did it. I think he did it. It makes your case pretty strong, don't you think? But here's what else it does. It gives Vicki Gaynor a chance when she gets the subpoena to be deposed. It gives Vicki Gaynor the chance to say, well, under advisement of my defense attorney, Waylon Graham, I shouldn't be answering civil lawsuit questions because it's possible that there's a criminal investigation about me. So I can't answer these questions. That's why. And there's more to it as well. But I'm telling you, it's all very dangerous too. I mean, it goes so high. This is not normal. It goes very, very high. And that's why I say to you that Vicki Gaynor and Chief Ramey and even and Chris Forehand, you should and everybody else who has their home surrounded by the sheriff's office, there's real danger here. People should go careful in a place like this. So even though you're mad or people are calling you names, the community's fighting with you, you're telling the truth, they don't believe you, you love Vicki and you're mad, All these things are valid. But it's way bigger than you all know. And they really, truly, they deserve your prayers. And I hope that you will, I hope that you'll send them. And I hope that you'll do what you're supposed to do. And that is really seek understanding, right? Understanding, discernment, and wisdom. And that starts with humility. We don't know it all. We don't know. I know a lot of facts, and these facts, all the data points, lead to this most likely path that's happening. But I don't know for sure. And I tell you when I'm speculating and why. And I tell you when things are factual. There's a lot going on here. This is not an organic response. All right, let's go to what do you want to see? You want to see Jesse Nelson just go ballistic? I mean, the guy that's been saying, look, Jamie, we ought to be a united front. The community needs to be as one. We need to have all of us move forward together, right? For the betterment of Lynn Haven. I have long told you that Jesse Nelson is a fraud. And this is the thing about those who are lying to you. Time will tell. I like to say time is an appellate judge because, you know, you hear people saying there's no evidence that there's any fraud. There's no evidence. And then when evidence does come out, and there's been evidence for a long time, by the way, quite frankly, the commissioners should have already been looking at the evidence that's been available. But a deposition is actionable evidence. It is testimony under oath. So to say that it's just one guy's opinion, he say, she say, as Jesse Nelson says, he say, she say, well, it's not just he say, she say. You're he say, she say until you're under oath. Let's take a look at Jesse Nelson not under oath at the meeting where now he used to tell everybody, don't talk about any lawsuits because we can't put the city at risk. Now he has taken that mask off and you're going to see the real Jesse Nelson. You ready for this? All right, let me pull it up. Thank one more sponsor. And when we get back, you're not going to believe your eyes.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, here is the meeting on Friday. This is part of the meeting on Friday. This is the part where Commissioner Peebles has suggested, first, Commissioner Warwick suggested terminating the city manager, and it failed 2-3. Then Mayor Nelson suggested just putting Vicky right back to work, and he did not get a second. Then Commissioner Sam Peebles said, look, why don't we suspend her without pay until she's either found innocent or until the lawsuit is over. So in other words, and nobody liked that, by the way. I mean, some people like the idea of it. It sounded kind of middle of the road, you know, but you had folks on both sides going up there saying, y'all need to make a decision. This was about terminating or not terminating, and right or wrong, make a decision. And so this failed, or they didn't even get to this. They ended up doing Jamie Warwick again made a motion to terminate, and it was a 4-1 decision at about the 3-hour mark, somewhere around there. But let's look at Jesse Nelson while they're kicking around the idea of suspending city manager Gaynor for could be a year, 2 years, 3 months. Nobody knows. And Jesse Nelson says, look, since the defendant, we put the other defendant, Vicky, since we referred her as possibly committing a crime of bid rigging to FDLE, if she's found innocent, look, there is no finding of innocence in a court of law in a criminal case. Just so you know, because I want you all to sound like you know what you're talking about. It's not guilty. You're not found innocent. you're found guilty or not guilty, it's important. You might not think so, but I want people to think that Lynn Haven is being represented by people who are learning. Okay. So Jesse Nelson is now going to flip out, and the attorney on the right side, Amy Whiteout Myers, has lost control. She knows that they have blown it. The defendants are at each other's throats. And Jesse Nelson is now going to start. He's going to start making the defense himself against James Finch's claims in the lawsuit. He's going to tell everybody the way it is. You're not going to effing believe this. All right, watch.
Pushing for that, I would prefer that we do it with administrative leave. If you don't agree with administrative leave, I would also like to add that we reimburse her for whatever attorney expenses that she's incurring because of this.
Watch Pat Perno. He's sitting next to the city attorney in the purple shirt. He has now shifted his body language. He's going to whisper to city attorney Amy Whiteout Myers. Watch. And she's going to whisper, that would be determined by the court. And so Pat Perno is going to say, that would be determined by the court, Mayor. And Jesse Nelson, of course, the mayor, being all-knowing and omnipotent and being smarter than the city attorney and the judge and everybody else in the whole wide world, he's going to explain why that's dumb. Watch.
And the reason,
watch Pat Perno.
And the reason Commissioner Peters, the reason I say that is because
that will be decided in the court, sir.
I get that, but we're the reason it's going to court because we're the ones that started it.
James Finch sued the city of Lynn Haven and Vicki Gaynor in her official capacity. Could you imagine suing two co-defendants and one of the co-defendants turns the other co-defendant into FDLE? I mean, that's a pretty damn strong lawsuit, wouldn't you say? So Jesse Nelson is saying, I understand the court will decide it, but damn, we turned her in. By we, they mean Ricky Ramey, the police chief. But again, that was all part of the script so that Vicki Gaynor could say, when she is deposed by James Finch in a civil case, I take the fifth based on my attorney, Waylon Graham, my defense attorney. I can't be answering these kind of questions in a money-chasing lawsuit while you're hunting money. You know, I could be a criminal defendant. I cannot be deposed. And then they'll try to wait out James Finch forever. And by the way, the other move, this is important, what I'm about to tell you. Jesse Nelson knows that now he needs to be deposed. So he puts on the pastor hat. And then he starts to say, it's very much like attorney-client privilege. Look, I'm ministering to Vicki Gaynor. I can't tell you what I'm telling her. What about the big rally you had or the big mass meeting you had at your church as a pastor talking about the city and the lawsuit? I can't tell you about that because I'm a pastor. I was ministering to my people, and that's just not something I can tell you. Do you see what they're doing? And all they have to do is make the argument long enough to try to wait out James Finch. That's the goal. That's the plan. This is a very big conspiracy to tamper with witnesses. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. This is how desperate the city of Lynn Haven is. And then on top of that, you've got to, overflow the place with yelling, angry members of the community, which again, I'm all about raucous public commission meetings every now and then. And I support their right to scream and yell and call people names. Welcome to America. I don't like it. I don't like, because I think people are being manipulated, and that makes me angry. But this is not a normal reaction by a defendant, by a city, by a mayor / pastor / activist / doctor. This is organized, and it's organized from above, from the racketeers, and they have main players to carry out the scripts.
So The reason I'm saying about the reason I would like to make the reason again, if you would not like to amend the motion that she would have paid administrative leave, I would like for you to consider amending the motion to cover her attorney fees. Hear me on this, is because if it was something that was criminal, even in the civil aspect, with it being reviewed, it should have already been raised to the criminal level.
Think about this.
City.
Jesse Nelson supposedly just learned this. So just right before this, minutes before, Chief Ramey comes up and says, I've got a confession. I got to tell everybody that I turned in Vicky Gaynor. He didn't say this, but they knew it. How did Jesse Nelson know this? Because he said, there is a criminal matter under review by FDLE. How does Nelson know the details? By the way, I was sitting near Chief Ramey when he sat down and he was trying to get the attention of one of the commissioners, and Sam Peebles saw him and he was saying, I need to talk. And Sam Peebles leaned over before Police Chief Ramey went up to this podium and made this surprise announcement. And Peebles leaned over to the mayor and said, hey, the police chief needs to say something. And Nelson shook his head in a knowing way. He doesn't need to talk yet, because Nelson knew the skit. How did Nelson know the skit? How does he know all these details? You know why? Because this is a play by the racketeers. It is a conspiracy to tamper with witnesses in a civil matter. That's a serious crime. But they think they're untouchable. Are they?
That in turn said that it was possibly criminal. Therefore, we are costing her.
How does he know all
the
this?
City these attorney fees that she's incurring now.
Look at Amy Myers.
That's something that was filed against her by another jurisdiction or by another attorney judicially.
How does he know all this?
So if we're not, again, I would just encourage us to, if you want to do the I would encourage paid administrative leave and or amending to cover her attorney's fees in addition to the reimbursement that you're stating.
Jesse knew the plan coming in.
Mayor?
Conspiracy.
Mayor?
Now, Judy Tinder, who Vicky Gaynor's supporters claim is a racist and hates Vicky, demonstrates human kindness and compassion toward Vicky. All right. So the idea here is they might put Vicky Gaynor on a long-term unpaid suspension, basically leave of absence. And the person accused of being racist and hating Vicky Gaynor says this.
Now, her attorney's fees, I was under the impression that our insurance would be paying for that. No?
Currently, in regards to the FDLE investigation.
How does he know all this?
Which was initiated by the city.
Mm-hmm.
According to because of the FDL investigation, she now has a criminal attorney.
He said, according to the FDLE, he's been talking to them.
Okay.
She has.
All right. The audience is going crazy. They're calling each other racist. It's very, very, it's a hot place, and it's all going on. There's an overflow room, and passions are inflamed.
She has a criminal attorney now because of
Waylon Graham, by the way,
in following through on this action in regards to the FDLE review.
He knows all about this
investigation, which I would assume that if it was something criminal, that even in the civil litigation, that it would have already been raised to a criminal aspect doing their review of all of this. If there was,
I told you, Jesse's just saying out loud what the secret move was. Somehow Jesse knows all this already. So in other words, we had to report her to have a let's pretend review to see if she committed any crimes. And as long as that's happening, she retains a criminal defense attorney. Then the criminal defense attorney advises her, look, if you get deposed in a civil case right now, we're worried about you in a criminal case. And Jesse's saying it's been elevated to we would assume it's been elevated to an investigation. So she had to get a criminal attorney, and the city is the one who reported her, the co-defendant. And so therefore we should pay for it, man. Okay. This is all designed to tamper with witnesses. And everybody knows it, or at least the people who are paying attention do.
Was something that was criminal that was actually done. And so since we as the city have taken it to that level, I think it is only right that if we're going to, again, if we're not going to give her paid administrative leave, whether it's paid administrative leave and or not paid administrative leave, I think we should amend the motion to include covering her attorney fees if she's brought back to work.
I would say I can agree.
That wasn't the part I thought it was. You're going to hear Judy be very kind toward Vicky in a moment.
Agree to that if we're only talking about the criminal side of things, because our insurance is covering the.
Correct. I'm only referring to the criminal side.
All right. That's fine. Okay, so I want to be very careful in this motion then. I would like to motion that the city manager be suspended without pay until the FDLA review is over and the litigation is over. If she is found innocent on both accounts, she will.
Not guilty. So I'm sorry that you have to hear all this, but this ended up not being part of it because it was absurd and just sweet, nice Sam Peebles is trying to take a Goldilocks approach to this. And both sides in the audience didn't like it, and make a decision, man, is what you need to do. And they eventually did. But here's where you'll hear in just a moment the kindness of Judy Tinder.
Will be reimbursed in full. The city will cover any lawyer fees on the criminal side if she is found innocent.
Not guilty.
Okay. I also would like to within that motion, since she is suspended, she is not to have any city devices. She is not to contact any city staff. If she's innocent, great. I want her to be innocent. But if she's not, we need to protect during that time. I think that's the right thing to do. We have two different investigations. Let those people make that decision, because
they created these investigations to tamper with witnesses.
that's what they're paid to do. So that's my motion. I'll say it again. She is suspended without pay until the FDLE review is done, until the litigation is over. If she is found innocent, she will be reimbursed. If she is found guilty on either account, she will be terminated. If she is found innocent, she will be reimbursed in full to include all of her benefits. If she is found innocent on the criminal side, the city will be responsible for reimbursing the attorney fees, and which will be a lot, by the way. I would imagine. And then finally, she is not to contact city staff during that time. She is not to have a city device.
Would you add that the assistant city manager will be acting in her stead?
I believe that was by default already.
Pat Perno says no. So the lady sitting next to Jesse is the assistant city manager, and most of them think, look, if Vicky's out, she's got to be out as well. We need an independent person sitting in there. That's the general consensus.
The case by our last motion, because it died on the floor, right?
Okay.
You will have an absence of the city manager rather than a termination.
Right, but I want clarity on who's going to be acting in that.
He really wants this lady there. He's very, very concerned.
Yeah.
I don't do it next. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't even think there's an action that needs to be taken on that.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be part of your motion.
Yeah, I believe that by default, Jennifer would be there
Okay.
during her absence.
So if she's guilty, she doesn't get reimbursed attorney fees, is what you're saying?
If she's guilty, she does not get reimbursed, correct?
All right.
It's if she's innocent,
Want
she
to make
does.
sure everyone's clear on
Yeah.
that.
All right, there's a
Okay, here's the kindness of Judy Tinder, who has been accused as a racist and somebody who hates Vicky Gaynor. A racist and somebody who hates Vicky Gaynor would have been so excited about all of this. But watch the human compassion, and this is what I mean about trying to understand each other.
motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I just want to add one small thing, because this is very important. I think her health insurance should still continue.
Yes.
No matter what, it should still continue. And then if she's found guilty, then she can pay that back or whatever. I don't know. But I think they should have health insurance.
I am good with that.
Mhm.
Don't leave her without it. That's human kindness. as people are screeching racist and all these things. I thought that was noteworthy.
All
And
right.
dental or whatever, and all of her insurances.
All right. So a motion has been made
All right,
for
so
that.
this-
Is there a second for this?
So the people come up and talk
All right,
here.
there's a motion.
But before this, I wanted you to hear Jesse talking
When I ran for office,
My
about
last one, you look at my,
And to return to work on 7. Staff.
this fails. Okay, here we go. Here's Jesse
we were
going
given.
off. This is what I
Commissioner
promised
Tender,
you.
you left, so I don't know if you got your packet.
Wow.
But in
Watch
that
this.
packet that we were supposed to get from CJ after we had our interviews, in that packet was the minutes from those meetings where it was confirmed, even by staff, that every project was, or even the lowest bid was $1 million over budget.
This is insane. So understand now he says, I don't care about the lawsuit. It's time for the truth to come out. So the attorneys are freaking out, but Jesse's now going to make every argument that he thinks a court should hear. This is so amazing. So even though Finch was under budget, his argument is the city still didn't have enough money to do the project anyway. Look at Sam Peebles and everybody's face. It is such a dumb argument. Yeah, Finch was under everybody else's bid, but damn, the city didn't have enough money anyway. So therefore, Finch is bad. Watch.
So I hear people saying, I heard someone say earlier, we cost, Miss Gaynor cost the city $300,000. How? Yes.
Because he was $300 under bid for more work. And she started it all over because she didn't like James Finch. And then you all ended up paying $300,000 more. That's how, Jesse.
Yes. Phoenix Construction was $300,000 less than the next highest bidder, but his $300,000 bid, as I understand it, is what was told to us, even from my interviews, was still $1 million over budget. $1 million over budget.
So they still did the $1 million over budget plus 300,000 more, dummy.
So it doesn't matter about if you can buy a paver, and if with those.
Watch, this is amazing. Oh, if you were an attorney, would you be freaking out that the defendants are turning each other into FDLE and litigating the case on public record? Now his anger is going to come out. Watch what he says here. It's because look, what Vicki Gaynor did, the city manager, along with Chris Forehand, she coerced him in coming up with a way to keep Phoenix Construction from winning any bids. And what they did was they said, if you don't own your own pavers to be able to pave the roads, because Finch would just subcontract the pavers. If you don't own your own pavers, you don't qualify, which is absolutely insane and illegal to carve out one thing like this, which is going to be proven in the lawsuit. But Jesse says, Finch is so rich, he could have just bought pavers. Watch.
Those changes, Vicki Gaynor did not direct those particular changes. She relied on her staff.
Look at this. This is wild. Under deposition, the person who did it said, yep, she made me do it. Jesse's saying everybody else, witness tampering, everybody else we just interviewed said Vicky's telling the truth and he's lying. Look at him. He's making the argument that attorneys must be free. He's litigating the case. Watch.
She relied on the engineering consultant who made recommendations.
Do you know that this is what inflames people is lying like this? I call it false hope. The idea that the person you like, is a good person. And people love Vicki. There's a lot of people who love Vicki. And they want to believe she's a good person. And what you're going to find out in this lawsuit is that she did some pretty bad things. But Jesse Nelson has decided, because he's got the green light from above, they don't care if they lose a lawsuit. This is about more than that at this point. This is about making sure she does not testify, because it's going to implicate people in the racket. That's why City Attorney Amy Myers is violating every ethical rule of not trying to rein in the city and saying, look, I have to advise you. I must advise you. It is my job to say, this is what we can talk about and this is what we can't talk about. And I recommend you guys stay in those bumper rails. And then if they go outside the bumper rails, she's done her job. But here she's not even doing that because the orders have come down from on high. And now Jesse has been ordered to go rogue.
To change it to 75%, who made recommendations that whatever recommendations and changes were made were recommended by them. So she didn't make those recommendations. There's not a cooperation on her part or some collusion to.
Can you believe this? Even though under oath, the guy who did it said yes.
Restrict Phoenix construction. If I also understand what bid rigging is, and city attorney, help me if I'm wrong, bid rigging.
How does he know all this stuff? He's been fed all this stuff.
Is to set up a bid in such a way that only one contractor is able to get the bid and not to exclude one particular contractor. Let's sit up and let's be real. If a man has enough money to fly a plane for recall over the city of Lynn Haven on the 4th of July parade, he has enough money to buy a paver.
He thinks and he's going to get a big applause from the people who support him and Vicky. He's going to get a big applause. And that's going to, because he's dumb, that's going to make him feel like he's doing something good. And he's going to continue. And the city, the taxpayers, do you think that the city and Vicky Gaynor are in a good or a bad position in this lawsuit? If you were the defendant's attorney, would you be happy that Mayor Jesse Nelson is explaining everything the way it is? Or would you rather him stop digging a hole? But listen, he said, if Finch can afford to fly an airplane to recall me, he can afford to buy the damn pavers. And the place is going to go nuts. Watch. And look, he'll get motivated by that.
So there was nothing done to restrict Phoenix Construction from making the bid.
Oh.
And let's be honest about it. If we really go back and look at the history of this, and Sam, Commissioner Peoples was not here, and a couple of months later, in November, Phoenix Construction came back. Jake's Landing. There was nothing that if Lynn Haven city manager Vicky Gaynor had a vendetta against James Finch, she would have been restrictive and she would have tried then to block him from even getting his land development order done. You weren't here for that. So it's there in the minutes, it's there in the notes.
This is so amazing because she did do that. Finch had to sue because even though the planning board recommended Finch, Vicky and them stopped it. And Nelson again is saying that the sky is down and the ground is up. I mean, this is what I mean when I tell you that time is an appellate judge, that look, if I want you to keep saying the things you're saying, if you're determined to win, if you're determined to dig your heels in, and if you've chosen a team, I want you to keep talking. I want you to keep saying it over and over on the record. If you are one of the rare and beautiful people whose allegiance is to the truth, I want you to keep talking as well. And if you're just a straight up liar and manipulator, I want you to keep talking. Because time will betray you. You are classifying yourself in real time. You're causing confusion and division now, but as the truth comes out, more and more people will know that you are a liar and a manipulator and a deceiver. And those are not godly things. They're the opposite. It's what really bothers me and hurts me, because he knows better. He's been given this info. He said he's given false hope. He's giving false hope to people. False hope is the worst thing ever. And that's what's evil about what he's doing. What he is saying right now is factually the opposite. And it'll be shown in court because the fact that he said this, it's already on the record.
August, we make a decision to rebid. Phoenix Construction sends us letters. It goes to our attorneys. Our attorneys said we did nothing illegal. Did we do anything illegal by making these changes to the contract and requirements for the bid?
Look,
our attorney said we did nothing illegal.
She didn't. She didn't even answer. She didn't deny it, and that's how she was when I asked her if this was back in 2021-ish, when she was representing Panama City Beach. Hey, did you alter the plat that you gave the FBI? Did you alter the copy of the plat, Amy Whiteout Myers? I didn't call her Whiteout Myers at the meeting. I called her Miss City Attorney, and she did the same thing. Mouth open, eyes big, no answer. She didn't deny it because she did it. Nelson just look at him. Look at Mr. Know-It-All. I love this. Oh, keep talking, Jesse. You know, it's the look at this. It's the confidence.
We did nothing illegal.
He asked her, did we do anything? She wouldn't even say no.
That same question.
Right. So we did nothing illegal. So we're here. She didn't do anything illegal. Nothing was done illegal.
How does he know? This is so crazy. So the city he just found out a minute ago that the city submitted a criminal review to FDLE on Vicky Gaynor for bid rigging. FDLE, he supposedly just found out minutes ago. FDLE is going to give an answer at some point. We don't think she did it, or we do, but it is under review. And Jesse Nelson is already deciding before FDLE answers. You know why? Because he knows the answer. Because Sheriff Tommy Ford is FDLE's chairman for its policies and disciplinary and that whole thing. He's the chairman out of 6. He already knows what FDLE is going to say. Because none of this is real. That's why the entire reaction to the firing of a city manager is so magnified, because it's about much more than that. That's why you are watching a conspiracy to tamper with witnesses, not to save the city damages in a lawsuit, but to protect people who have done much worse. And the problem they have, and I've told you this, that the seats in a protection racket don't stay the same forever. Sometimes they change. Sometimes they turn on each other. And the two main spokes of the wheel have turned on each other. And if Vicky Gaynor is not satisfied, there's no telling what she'll say. And there are people, the investigators, sheriff, the FBI, who have a lot to lose. That's why this looks so unusual. That's why nobody cares. That's why the city attorney is not saying, Jesse, we can't litigate this here. Jesse, who has told everybody forever, we can't talk about it, there's an ongoing lawsuit. That was bullshit. You are watching the truth come out. Do you feel ostracized? The truth does come out. It's time for people like Jesse to stop trying to outsmart the truth and let it have its day. But they are narcissists, and there are always throughout history people like this and people who are pulling his strings. And you're just getting a front row seat, that's all.
And if there's a vendetta, I'm going to get you in all areas, not just one.
Jesse Nelson, the mayor, just told a commissioner, look at this dude. I'm going to get you in all areas. I'm going to prove you're wrong in all areas. I'm going to litigate this right here. The city attorney's freaked out. I'm going to get you in all areas, not just one. I'm going to prove you're wrong again because I'm always right and you are evil with anger issues, Jamie.
If there's a vendetta, why didn't this vendetta continue 3 months later when we came back with another development order from Jake's Landing?
James Finch had to sue for that. because even though the planning board said, yeah, let's do it, we recommend it, Vicky Gaynor and the city said no, and Finch had to sue. So what he's saying is like, it's like me saying, look at that fire, it's very cold. I'm going to get you in every way. That fire is cold. Say it. Fire is cold.
And I remember in those discussions, you said, Commissioner Warwick, you told Ted Shopis, he stood there as we were in those pre-commission meetings, that the corruption must stop.
No, I didn't say corruption. What
You said we can't play those games anymore.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing. Right.
Yeah. So there was a dispute between him and the city manager. And I'm like, okay, do you have it in writing?
There was a dispute between James Finch's main guy at Phoenix Construction and the city manager. Everything Jesse's saying is what's crazy is he acts like this is the end all of the point. You understand what you just said, Mayor? Or I don't know, activist, doctor, pastor, wear all hats for all things and fight the power, I guess. He's going to fight the city itself. That's what they're doing. That's what he says he's doing. Do you think that, wouldn't you love to watch him in a deposition? Tell everybody the way it is. Yeah, but look at the video. You're going to believe me or your lying eyes, says Jesse Nelson. More and more people are seeing this.
He was like, no. I said, that it never happened.
It never happened. So my point is, if there's a vendetta, if there's some sense of the city manager is trying to intentionally go after James Finch, then why didn't we do that when Jake's Landing came up?
You did.
Why didn't we do that when Jake's Landing came up? Why was even when we talked about James Finch, let's put it all out. Even when we talked about James Finch, his relatives came to me asking me how I was going to vote.
Would you not love to have him as a defendant in a lawsuit, the city? Do you think James Finch's lawsuit is stronger or weaker? Now Jesse's going to say James Finch sent his family members to try to get secrets about the city and our votes. I can't wait to hear him have to answer these questions under oath. He thinks these allegations from the mayor's seat or the pulpit are, I don't know, what does he think? That is not going to be corrected? That's narcissism at its peak form.
Vote on that project. And I said, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote. Came asking me, hey, what are y'all going to do? We're going to do what is right by the ordinances. We're going to do what is right by this. If Mr. Finch, if we have this vendetta against Mr. Finch, he was told to stop contacting us while he was under
This is the defendant in a lawsuit.
indictment, and we continue to see emails and letters from him when he was restricted to do so by a judge.
I mean, all Jesse's doing is a laundry list of accusations against Finch, most of which many of which he defeated in court because they're ridiculous, unbelievable accusations. And Jesse just thinks going down a litany of these allegations as a mayor in a city council meeting, and God knows what he said tonight as a pastor. But look at everybody's body language. He is truly now ostracized.
Let's be honest about it. The reason we are here is because in February, we all decided to pay off. Commissioner Tender wasn't here. We all decided to pay off a $4+ million loan that we owed to not Phoenix Construction, but James Finch.
From the ARPA funds.
From the ARPA funds.
ARPA funds.
So now Jesse's going to say, this is so wild. Jesse's going to say the city owed James $4 million. That's how bad a guy he is. He was making out like a bandit. He was James Finch, 75 years old or so, fighting some serious health issues. Look at Jesse's body language. James Finch was going to get, he'll tell you how much money every month until the year like 2047. What a scoundrel, greedy MFer that guy is. We owe him $4 million. and he's going to make out for 20 years. Okay. He thinks he's making a point and the audience claps. Do you know that it would have been $6 million if they borrowed it from a bank? It would have been a lot more because the interest rate was double. James Finch loaned the city his own money. When they voted on that back in 2015 or so, every one of those commissioners back then thanked James Finch for loaning the city the money to do the 17th Street Ditch project, a very dangerous place in Lynn Haven. James Finch fixed it under budget, under time, and with his own money. To which a jury said, "What the hell? Not guilty." And Jesse is making the argument and again riling up people with crazy talk, acting like Finch stole that money from the city. Finch loaned that money to the city at half the interest rate and did the job himself and told the city, "Don't pay me back till it's done. Don't even make the first payment till I'm finished. That way you'll know I won't raise the prices on you. I won't come back with change orders." And that's exactly what he did. And this mayor is riling up people as though James Finch did something wrong and not something good. This is everything wrong from the beginning of time. People who can lie with impunity, with no compunction, they can just do it. And even with the public trust as a mayor and a man of the cloth and a doctor. You're watching something remarkable.
Yeah.
We're going to pay that loan $21,000 plus a month went to the James Finch Trust Fund, not the Phoenix Construction.
Look at this guy. Understand, Finch loaned the city money. They would have been paying back, I'm telling you, so much more than that if they had borrowed from a bank. Here's a question. Do you believe that he doesn't understand this? Is he dumb? Does he not understand it? Or is he just a really gifted liar and manipulator? I tend to think it's the latter. I think he's dumb, but not that dumb. He's just a real narcissist, and he's an excellent liar. I mean, look at him. He's acting like I'm speechless. I guess I've belabored the point.
21,000 plus a month until the year 2047.
James Finch is 75 years old, and what's the point? You would have been paying a hell of a lot more than that if James didn't loan you the money. Do you think Jesse does not understand this, or is he riling up people, giving them false hope and deceit? I've told you what I think.
Was going to the JF Trust Fund. When we all decided, instead of it being a 30-year payment, to pay it off in 10 years to reduce our overall length of indebtedness for the city, then
you wouldn't have been able to do that if you borrowed it from a bank. It would have been too much money. And that's what everybody said, and they all thanked him for it until Sheriff Ford and the FBI decided to say this stuff. That's Sheriff Ford's handpicked choice right there. That's why they got rid of Margot.
there are attacks against us for that. But the funny part about it,
What's funny?
no one came up here and attacked you for that. We all voted on it.
Oh, what? He thinks he's making a point. Look, he thinks he's got a point right now. I can't believe everybody just sits there. Look at him. That's what's known as a demagogue.
I believe we all voted yes to pay off this debt in 10 years, which was 30 years. But no one attacked us for that. No one attacked you all for that. Instead, Ms. Gaynor and myself were told that we were mismanaging funds because all of us voted to pay off a $4 million plus loan, which saved us over $1 million.
It would have been far more than $1 million in interest. Remember, James Finch loaned them the money at 2.55% when the going rate at a bank was 6%. Do you think he knows that and is misleading the audience? I think he does. He's being deceitful. He's being a demagogue. When you hear that it saved the city $1 million, you believe it, and people would go up there and say, numbers don't lie, numbers don't lie. And they believe what they're saying. They believe it. And I feel them. Now, the question is if they knew the truth, would their allegiance be to the truth, or would they dig in and double down? That's the difference between good people and everybody else.
We're here because you all are being supported by this person.
They're not there because there's a lawsuit. We're here because, again, this is the next thing. This is all of the things they have accused people of. It's the same laundry list. Look at Jesse. We're here not because of a deposition and because the two people, the spoke and the wheel of the conspiracy in Lynn Haven with Vicky Gaynor and Chris Forehand. We're here because Jamie Warwick and Judy Tinder, you are being financed and supported. He said supported only. Jamie's going to say, I didn't take $1,000. I didn't take his money when I ran. To which Jamie immediately flips and says, so what? It was only $1,000. Understand what Jamie does. I mean, what Jesse Nelson does. He'll say, you're being supported by Finch. And then when you say, I refused his money, he'll say, so what? It wasn't very much anyway. Watch this. This is unbelievable.
You may say that you're not in letter. He says he endorses you. You have not denied the endorsement. He says he endorses you. He endorses her. So we are here for a vendetta. We're not here for.
I'll even say this for the record. Okay.
Okay.
He offered to give me money for my campaign and I turned him down. I didn't want his money.
He can only give you $1,000. So you don't.
Put a pin in that. That's Jesse Nelson. We're here because you're being supported by James Finch. I turned down the money. It's only $1,000. Which is it, Jamie? Is he there because he's being supported by James Finch? Because I mean, he's supposed to not accept the endorsement of James Finch, a philanthropist and the most successful contractor the city's ever had, who's always done the jobs under budget, on time, and sometimes with his own money. The prosecutors lied about him. The jury heard it. 2 juries. They tried him twice for a crime that now is no longer, the federal government can no longer charge people on a wink and a nod. The Supreme Court took that away. That's what he was being charged with. There was no quid pro quo. There was no bribery. They charged him with a wink and a nod, no evidence. And the Supreme Court, soon after Finch was found not guilty, said, nobody can be, you need evidence to charge somebody. And they took that. It's just the wildest stories you've ever heard in your life. And if you don't know these things and you believe Jesse Nelson, I understand why you're angry. But you do have an obligation, whether you take it or not, I mean, to try to know the truth. We're here because there's a vendetta. We're not because of a deposition. We're here because you two are being supported by Finch. I didn't take his money. Yeah, it's only $1,000. Now what's next? What's the next thing Jesse throws?
Don't need $1,000.
I didn't want it.
That's all he can give you is $1,000. But
even his inflection and his tone is the inflection and tone of a you know, you've heard this is one of the most famous biblical quotes, and I'm no biblical scholar, God knows. But bearing false witness against your neighbor, is that a good or a bad thing? He just did it in public to Jamie, and then when Jamie corrected him, he just continued with it bearing false witness against your neighbor over and over and over and over. And then look at the demagogue, and then the audience, the more vocal the support is, people get excited, and it fuels them. Plus, he knows that congressmen and sheriffs and FDLE and everybody's pulling the strings on this. So he feels very, very empowered. What's anybody going to do to him? The governor's not going to do anything. FDLE's they're already working with FDLE. The sheriff brought him in. The prosecutors already went after Finch and Margot instead of the real criminals. Something big's going on. Something big's going on. But you're watching something remarkable here.
I want us to be real about why we're here. We're not here because of a deposition. We are here because there is a vendetta from the other side to come and to try to destroy the integrity of a woman that is upheld with honesty and righteousness. That's why we're here.
So that's the defense, I guess, of Jesse Nelson in the lawsuit. We're not here because of testimony under oath. We're not here because of documents and evidence. We're not here because of a lawsuit and a process, a legal process. We're here because Jesse Nelson proclaims that you two have a vendetta against a very good woman. You think James Finch has a strong lawsuit or a weak lawsuit?
That's why we're here. So when what is my stance on it after what I heard on Wednesday, after what I said and heard after I had discussion with the attorneys, I can't in right mindset or even in right consciousness say that we should even suspend her. For me, the only motion that matters is there's a motion to end the city manager's paid administrative leave and to return to work on 7/21/25. That's it.
All right, so I'm going to stop this here. And I'm going to call this, I know I've gone on a long time, and I hope that you've at least, I don't know, thought about this, because there's something big going on, and it's going to play itself out. But when things don't make sense, when you have a fuller picture and you've been looking at it for a long time, you start to come up with, oh, that's why. And that's what I tried to bring you tonight. I felt like I was going to tell you something else, but I'm probably just belaboring the point here and going on and on. But so that's what Nelson wanted to do, is just say, look, just bring her back. And he didn't get a second on it. And then Jamie Warwick said, look, all right. The audience came up, both sides said, make a decision, fire or not fire. And it was 4-1 fire. Then Jesse Nelson called a meeting tonight, and the press wasn't allowed in, I guess. At least not when I started this. And who knows? But there's a city commission meeting on Tuesday. And we'll see where it goes from here. But I think that the reaction is going to get a lot worse, because it's not about the firing of a city manager. It's about a whole hell of a lot more than that. And that's why it doesn't make sense, and that's why it doesn't look normal. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. Lots more coming, and I'll try to bring it the best I understand it. But I do want to thank those of you, of course, who support my efforts, like the Unknown Patriot. Thank you for your support. Also, thank you to those of you who throw a tip in the tip jar, as little as $5 a month. Can you imagine? $5 a month. The best money you can spend on the internet. That's undisputed. Even Jesse Nelson would agree with that. Ask him. Little as $5 a month at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's crowdfunding, and I couldn't do this without you. Thank you. It's easy. It's anonymous. And you can quit at any time. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. Also, that's not what I was going to do. Also, if I were you, I'd subscribe. It takes 20 seconds. It's free, bernie.substack.com, and you'll get an email every week with this show. Even if people are on Facebook, you can forward them the email and it'll have a YouTube link and they can watch it and they can see the important posts. It takes 20 seconds. You're going to love it. One email a week, sometimes more. It's free. It's fast. bernie.substack.com. It's Sunday. I'm doing my best. Thanks for being with me.